I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. First up, we have an acknowledgement of a donation. I'm taking it that the person is not here, right?
No, and Jack's been working.
Great, Jack, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah, we're very fortunate to receive another 3D printer from CDW. They sell electronics, and John Skidmore, the sales manager for the Northeast, lives in Monroe. And it's a large format printer. It's something we did not have before. It's worth about $6,000. So our CTE department was very, very happy to have that in use with our students.
Great, thank you. Oh, anybody want to be secretary tonight? Shannon is not here. Thank you, Alan. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Thanks, Jerry. Do I have a second? Thanks, Jeff. Any comments about the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Great, thank you. We will move on to our reports of our committees and liaisons, and before we get to Kevin and Will, John wants to read something from Ryan Winkler.
Ryan Winkler, who was our board rep, wrote today, he said, as a Massac representative, as a student representative for the Board of Education for like the past couple of months, I appreciate what I've learned and the experiences that I've had. Unfortunately, I can no longer be a student representative as I have a conflict with the upcoming meetings. I've joined a new soccer team this spring that is very competitive and practices 4 days a week, including every Monday. I'm looking to pursue college soccer as an option, and that he has to move on from that. So he hopes he can be a representative in the upcoming fall, but he's not going to be able to be with us.
Great.
So I know that Joe said he can look for a replacement for Ryan.
Yeah, I'll look for another junior student.
Okay.
Because remember, Ryan was our junior, so.
Correct, so this person would be a 2-year appointee. All right, great. Will and Kevin, it's all up.
So our robotics team went to Worcester, Massachusetts for regionals this weekend, and both of the teams made it to the championship. And I watched it on YouTube today, a replay of it, and it's this crazy, like, 3 players or 3 teams are all on one team, but they're from like different schools, and they have these machines that just stack these cones one on top of another, like up to like 8 feet in the air. It's a really, really cool to see that these things like don't work without drivers sometimes. Like they work autonomously. It's really, really cool to see. And obviously with both of our teams in the championship, one of our teams was crowned the Southern New England champ, and both teams qualified for Worlds, which is in Louisville, Kentucky. They had a police and fire truck escort on the way back, which was pretty cool, I think. So we have economics students going to Sacred Heart for a junior achievement competition this Wednesday, and our Model UN students, Massac Model UN students, are going to New York City on Wednesday. And our superintendent students of the month are Kelsey Coville and Andrew Maslar.
So tomorrow, just to give you guys a heads up, we have a DECA competition. I have to say, so I'm DECA vice president. So the DECA competition provides an awesome opportunity for kids like me that might be a little introverted, and it gives us, you know, a firm grasp on what it's like to talk in a business environment and communicate thoughts and work and use our creative ideas to solve problems. And we get presented with a scenario, and we have to figure out how to interpret it and also attack a problem and solve it and present it to a judge. And it's a great opportunity for any kid that is looking for not even a kid that really wants to do business in the future, but he or she can also just need that extra push to be able to talk amongst adults. And it's a really good opportunity for kids my age. So that's going on tomorrow. Bus leaves at 6 in the morning. We got to get there early and save some seats. So yeah, that's going on tomorrow, and I'm super excited for that. We also have Amanda Dial. She's getting recognized. She came in first in the state of Connecticut and fourth in the country for the Invest Right stock market game and essay competition, and they had a little celebration for her in the library. I believe it was on Friday, and it's a huge deal. It's really impressive. From what I've heard, she's a brilliant girl, so all props to her for that. We have a couple events coming up. Pi Day 5K is on the 11th, not the 14th, it's on the 11th. I say that because I got confused. And then the fashion show is on the 14th. That's after school. That's all raising money, and all benefits and proceeds go to post-prom and funding post-prom. My mother did a beautiful job with her friends at the display case, so after the meeting, if you want to check that out. They always do such a great job, and Will and I are participating in this year's fashion show. Never thought I'd say that, but yeah, it's always such a good time, and we're really excited. So we also have ring dance coming up for the sophomores on the 16th, and SAT boot camp the weekend of the 17th and 18th.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any other committee reports this evening? All right, hearing none, we will move on to public participation. If you'd like to speak, name and address.
Theo Gross, 11 Northwood Road.
Dylan Ferris, 66 Richards Drive.
Today, we are here representing the Massac Political Action Club, and as students, we're aware that the topic of student parking passes has been brought to your attention time and time again in the past, mostly in attempts to ask for a price reduction. But this is not exactly why we're here to talk to you about parking passes today. We're here to talk, we approach you, the Board of Education, to discuss the formation of a subcommittee to handle issues regarding parking at Massac. Before discussing the subcommittee, we want you all to think back to when you were in high school. Did you have the time, energy, or money to hand over $125 to the school just to park? On top of trying to save for a car, gas, and even insurance, this just adds another expense. This expense that students have come to you in prior years to reduce is just one of the ideas that could now be handled by the parking committee that we're proposing. Yes, we understand that the parking pass is a privilege, not a necessity, and yes, we do understand that we can take the bus that passes by our houses every morning. However, with early mornings and busy schedules, having this luxury just helps most students keep order in their everyday lives.
You as a board need this revenue in order to aid for parking lot maintenance, and we understand that. However, comparing to neighboring towns, it seems as though our price is higher than the majority. According to NBC Connecticut, 7 districts don't charge a dime for parking. 7 districts charge under $100. This including Shelton High School at $100, Milford High School at $90, and Newtown High School at either $85 or $100, depending on when you receive your license. Therefore, we are on the higher end of the spectrum, and our students simply have concerns as to why. What we, as representatives of the student body, are proposing is not for you, the Board of Education, to reduce the price of parking passes, but to form a committee of teachers, parents, and students to have these concerns handled themselves. That way, you will not need to hear these similar concerns and speeches again, while we will have a group to give a fair and consistent assessment over future concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak? All right, we will move on to the report of the superintendent.
Okay, I'd just like a little update about the budget. Jack and I and all the leadership team administrators will be attending the Board of Finance meeting tomorrow night. It is one of their budget workshops, and they are going to handle the Board of Ed's budget tomorrow night. And also, Jack and I have been going to all the PTOs to review the budget with them so that they know what the Board of Ed budget looks like. We've done it with one PTO. We're doing it the rest before the budget vote. We're going to the Parent Council on Wednesday, and we're going to the Senior Center. So we're trying to get the word out there. We have Superintendent and First Selectman meeting this Saturday, so we're hoping we'll get the word out there so if people have any questions about the budget, we can certainly answer them. Insurance update. We met with Brown & Brown, who is our broker, and we were looking to see if we could get into a consortium with other towns to save some money. But unfortunately, because we have a large number of high claimants, we were not accepted into the consortium. But Brown & Brown did leverage with Cigna that we were looking. So we did get some good news from Cigna because they're saying they want to keep our business. So what they did is they gave us a 0% increase in the aggregate stop loss insurance that we have to get, and for the administrative fees. There was a 9% increase in the individual stop loss, and that's, again, because of our high claimant numbers. It looks like we're going to have between a 9 and 10% increase in our premiums for next year. And again, we had a large increase for this year. We're going to have that. It's smaller, but still a large increase next year. But we've done well over the last 10 years, so we're happy about that. We did ask about the $400,000 budget increase that we put in the budget, that you guys voted to put in the budget. We did ask about that, and he really believes we're really close to that, so we should be fine. We were worried that the $400,000 was not going to be enough. And some people thought maybe we could save some money, but we couldn't. We can't save any money, and it's really close. So he feels confident in the $400,000. So we're good with that. So any questions about insurance? Gabby wants to talk about a 2% increase in the Monroe Early Learning Center.
So we don't usually bring this to the board for approval because it's a self-funded program similar to like an Arts and Imagination, and the cost for it basically covers the staff that we have. As you recall, we have a daycare and a childcare and a preschool program, so we run it for staff for children between 6 weeks and 5 years old, just before they go off to kindergarten. Obviously, the daycare component is a little bit more expensive because it's a higher, you need more staff ratio per state guidelines. So that works out to about $505 for 23 weeks. So a teacher would pay $505 every 23 weeks. And for the preschool program, it's $452 every, every paycheck, 23 weeks pay. So that didn't work out right. I know Donna was looking at me like I lost my mind for a second. So it's a really, really slight increase. They haven't had an increase since they went over to the town, right? Yeah, since they went over to the town. When, if you recall, they were in Jockey Hollow and Massac, and then they went to Chalk Hill when we closed Chalk Hill because we didn't have space for them in Jockey Hollow. So there has not been an increase in tuition since I think 2012.
And it's competitive cost.
Yeah. It's a very competitive.
And we have people from the town, police officers, other people from the town and Board of Ed in the program. So it's been a good program for us. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. The other thing that we want to talk about is the issue of what they're calling a walkout, but really the issue on school violence. And, hats off to our two administrators in the middle and high school because they have really worked with their students and the teachers to come up with a program that's really meaningful for the students. So let's start with Jack Ciccolini for the middle school. Jack, if you want to talk about what you're doing for that day, the March 14th day.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Ours is really surrounding reassurance and awareness on the part of the students. Reassurance from the standpoint of safety, not focusing on the violence that has gone on, but simply that we know there have been events that have gone on, not just recently, but over a number of years. And they've led us to having different safety procedures and drills at our school, and we're going to review those. This will take place in an advisory. As a matter of fact, it's taking place tomorrow at both campuses during the advisory. It was to be Friday, but the weather didn't agree with us. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. That'll be a portion of the advisory, reviewing our safety protocols as a means of reassurance to the kids that they are safe, they're safe in school. The other piece of it will be how we share our voice in a democracy. And there'll be a brief overview of that during the advisory, but then it's going to be carried on in social studies classes. Ian Lowell, along with the social studies teachers, created a plan for sharing really a civics lesson on activism, and it's really historic. They're going right back to the Revolution and the Declaration of Independence as a means of having our voice heard by the King of England, and then moving through time right up through the 60s and Rosa Parks and the issue on the public transportation. These are all different means for sharing your voice appropriately in democracy. And then we're going to talk about what those different things are, including peaceful protest, including writing letters to our representatives, and including what they may or may not have heard of about a walkout. In a symbolic gesture, this is going to carry on into a symbolic gesture on the 14th of March, where we'll have a follow-up advisory. And at that time, children will be given the opportunity, if they so choose, to write. They can write to a congressperson. Does not have to be about gun violence. It can be about whatever topic they might feel important. They might write about animal activism. They could write about, you name the topic that you might write to the congressperson about. Mr. Batista was kind enough to say they could write to him. Maybe they want to talk about lunches in the cafeteria or opportunity for recess. It can be anything to share your voice in an appropriate way in a democracy, and this is how we do it. And it'll be symbolic of the events taking place at the time.
Great, thank you. And Joe, you want to tell what's happening at the high school?
Yeah, at the high school, we're looking to do we're calling I met with the student leaders, MRA, student government, and we're talking about doing a student forum on school safety, student forum on school violence. When this thing first came about, on February 21st, there was supposed to be a walkout. And that was the day we came, it was the day after we came back to school after the February break. And when I talked to some of the kids who wanted to organize that, their feeling was that, hey, we really want people to hear us. We want the people in power to know that we're kind of upset and we want this issue addressed. And I said, well, hold on a minute. If that's what we want to do here, walking down to the football field and walking in circles and not really having a clear message might not be the best way to express that. So let's come up with something that's kind of age appropriate for us. And we're at the high school level. These guys, they're seeing stuff on TV. They're seeing kids start to advocate for themselves. Kind of exciting that they want to do that. We want to make sure that we're channeling that in the right way. So what we're doing is we're going to have, like I said, we're calling a student forum on school safety in the gymnasium. We've invited a bunch of our local officials. I know Donna's going to be there. I don't know, Alan, I heard you might be coming. John and Jack are going to be there. We've invited our first selectman, our state representative, the chief of police, and a couple of other folks. The people who I already mentioned have already said that they would come. I talked to the students today, made one clear message. I'm going to send them an email kind of following up with them. But I sent them one clear message today basically saying, hey, we've heard you. We know that you want to speak. If you want to speak, come down and see me. This way we can plan appropriately. If they have questions, one of the things I also heard from the kids was, at first it was just going to be an opportunity for the kids to share, and this is still going to be the case. We want them to share their concerns and what are their solutions for it. We want this to be kind of a solutions-oriented approach to things. Whatever angle of school safety they're kind of looking at. When I met with the student government, though, they did indicate that, well, it's going to be weird if we have all these people here and we can't ask them questions. So we are soliciting questions from the student body. Our senior class president, Super Kid, is kind of going to gather that together. We're going to try to give it to the people. We're going to give it to the people ahead of time so they're equipped. The right people are answering questions. So we're going to have a big, student forum, kind of community conversation in the gymnasium on the 14th at 10 o'clock. I also understand that this is a sensitive topic. It's sensitive for teachers, it's sensitive for some students, and there's some students that are really concerned about this issue, are very sensitive to this issue and may not want to participate in it. So we're trying to find a safe place in the building, probably this room, probably the library for kids who don't want. I'm not going to make it mandatory that everyone has to go down there because it's for some kids it's a scary subject. So there will be a place for those kids that don't want to participate, and then everyone else will be down in the gymnasium.
I think both of those activities are age appropriate and really are addressing students' voice, and that's kind of where we are. Yep. Any questions for Jack and Joe?
Yeah, for Jack, are you going to go into the issue of violence and what's happened recently?
We're not going to go into anything specific.
Okay.
Especially in the 6th grade, that was a decision that we made very thoughtfully. 7th and 8th grade, it has come up. It's come up in different social studies, civic type lessons. The kids are bringing it up, so there is a little bit more awareness. We know that from listening to the kids, but we're still not going to be. That is not going to be the focus.
So is it going to be? It's going to be broken by grade. How
Yeah,
are you?
advisory are small groups by grade. The
Okay.
kids are always grouped by grade in those small groups.
Okay.
So yes.
Another piece that we have, we're going to try to, I'm going to make a phone call tomorrow to the registrar of voters. So I'd like to have them here again, try to make this as civics oriented as possible for our students who are 18 and not registered to vote yet. Or, I don't know what the rule is, I think it's 17 and maybe 6 months you can register to vote. But have the registrar here to vote with them. And I know, in our conversations, especially with J.P. Strzynski, he's talked about kind of concluding this with, what can you do? And we talk about, letter writing and contacting your representatives, whoever the appropriate people are. Try to get the kids involved in the civic process.
So I think it's been a thoughtful process. I just wanted to give you some information about Celebration of Reading that happened on Friday, even with the early dismissal. There were 63 guest readers in the schools, in all the elementary schools, so that was great. The books that were selected, they were selected by each school's reading team, so they were age-appropriate books. And a lot of work went into this, and I want to thank Sheila and from our team, but I also want to thank the parents, the parent volunteers, especially Sandra Gabrielle Busa, who really was the chair of this event and really got everybody involved. And it was a very successful event. And the kids love having the guest readers come in, and I enjoy reading. I read to the 3rd grade, and it was a great day, so it was good. I think that's it.
Great. Any questions for John before we move on? All right, hearing none, we will move on to old business. First up, we have the curriculum, the 3 nonfiction books that we looked at yesterday, and some of you guys took some home and read them. So do I have a motion to approve the text Chasing Lincoln's Killer, Refugee, and The Unconquerable Soul for the nonfiction reading as presented for grades 8 and grade 7? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Alan. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Great, thank you. Motion passes. We will move on to new business, and first up is school security and a discussion of safety and the security that they're going to have at PTOs. John, you're going to do a presentation?
Yes, we're going to do a quick presentation. Jack and I, security and safety is on everybody's mind these days. And so one of the things that parents have asked us to do is, can we go to PTOs and talk about what we're doing? And so Jack and I are starting to do that. We did it at Jockey Hollow last week, and Gabby's there, and Gabby's part of this because she's on the safety committee also. So the 3 of us are going to talk about the presentation that we put together. We explained to the parents that we can't tell them everything, and we don't want to tell them everything because we want some of this stuff to be internal, so that people that may want to do us harm don't know about this. So we're going to show you the slides that we're doing, and we're going to do an abbreviated version for you guys, since you know most of this. Okay, one of the things that we talked about is, if you remember before 1999, this was the security in the building. There was a little sign that just said, please come to the office. And that was our security. And then Columbine happened in 1999, so security changed for all of us. And in Monroe, what Jim used to say and what we're saying is, there's not 100%, there's no 100% solution. But it's more about 101% solutions. So what can we do, a little at a time, a little different areas, to help with security and safety? And so we look at the 4 tiers of security. We look at behavior, and we're going to talk about that quickly. We look at technology, we look at structural changes, and we look at law enforcement.
So our security plan is something that we've been working on for years now. We continue to update it on a regular basis. We have a security committee that meets actually right here throughout the year. And this document, although it's something that is in black and white and is in text, it's always being edited and updated based on what we learn. The truth about these events in schools is there's always something different about them, unfortunately, and there's different scenarios that we then need to plan for. So within our security committee meetings, we're studying scenarios, and we're updating everybody who's part of that committee. We have principals from every building, and then we're able to carry that information back to our schools so that this is something we're always responding to new information and staying current with what we need to do to keep schools safe.
And David is on the committee, and so he comes to our meetings, and so you have a voice through him.
Then structurally, the board did a great job. Just after Sandy Hook, we made a major investment in our schools. We changed the entry area of every single one of our schools. We put Monroe up there for a reason. That's where we made the biggest changes. If you recall, the old office was located down the hallway where the music room is today. And the office didn't even know who was coming and going because you couldn't see the front door. So the office was shifted over next to the front door, double entry systems at every single facility now with double buzz-ins everywhere so that we're able to manage entry for any individual. If there was an event, we would be able to slow that individual down as they come into the building, and that's really an important part of the work that we do. And then also technology changes. We have a lot of video cameras around our campuses. It makes a big impact on preventing issues before they occur. We have a great working relationship with the police department, which John is going to talk about in a little more detail, but the police are also able to see our video. So it's a major benefit to them. If there's an issue on campus, they don't have to go looking around. They're able to see it at dispatch, and we're able to monitor things in real time so that they're able to go to the issue as they see it. So that's a major help in our infrastructure. The other thing that we have available are panic buttons in each office. Go straight to dispatch. Once that button is hit, it doesn't matter if it's a mistake or not, the car comes. And that's the agreement we have with the police department so that we can ensure that there's an immediate response to anything that might occur. And then, as you might recall, we added School Gate Guardian 2 years ago, I believe now, so that every visitor that comes to the school is scanned through. They're scanned and their information is tested against the sex offender registry so that we're able to see that the visitors coming in are appropriate and people that we should have into the school environment.
Behavioral changes are something that we have been doing in our district, and we have these monthly practice drills. In the old days, we used to have a fire drill every month, but now we have different kinds of drills every month. And the language that we use is specific. We don't use codes. When we first started this process, we used to have like code red and code blue, and people are like, well, wait, what's a code red? Now we use really common language. There's a lockdown, there's an intruder, very common language. One of the things that we tell students is don't open the door, because our students are very polite. And when I'm coming into the elementary school, they used to come out and open the door for me. And so now the message is, don't open the door for someone if you don't know, you don't know who they are. They're not supposed to be there. Don't open the door. See something, say something. I want to go back to the drills. When we do the drills, I'm going to talk about that with the police in a minute, so I'll save on that. We've just been involved in another kind of training called ALICE training, and it is training for the staff. And one of the parents asked the question about why don't we train students? And in ALICE training, we don't train students, we train the staff, and the staff will direct the students. And the reason for that is sometimes students can be the problem, so we don't want to give students all the information that we have. So our teachers were trained on ALICE training, which is different than, we're going to close the lights off and hide in the corner. It's different. It's more getting kids out of the building. One of the things that we showed our teachers is that in Columbine, there is a audio of the librarian telling the kids to stay down, and there was an exit that they could run right outside, right over there. But she was trained, and as we all were in the beginning, you stay and you hide. You don't run away. But now that training and that thought has changed. It's not stay and hide. If you can get out, get out. So again, I'm being vague because we don't want to give too much information, but we have started that ALICE training, and so the teachers feel really important about that. They feel like empowered, and they kind of know what they have to do, but the students don't necessarily know. They'll be directed by the teacher. Jack talked about the ongoing security meetings. One of the things that we always care about is feedback. And if you can click on that, Jack. We got feedback from parents in the last couple of weeks about something that we just want to show you. I don't know if you've seen this.
Very easy to check it out. With just 2 steps, push, pull, bar, in. The door is jammed and it stops the intruder from getting in.
All right, we can shut it off.
Why?
So a parent talked about this. So what we've done is we've ordered one of those, and we're going to bring it to the Security and Safety Committee meeting. We want to hear what the police and the first responders have to say. They may say that's not the right way to go. They may say that it would be more hindrance than help. But we want to hear them. We got feedback from a parent. Seemed like something that was reasonable. We bought one. Should be coming soon. We're going to show it to our security committee, and then they're going to decide whether that's something that we can do or not.
We have really good dialogue in that committee. We have representation from the police department as well as fire department, and with things like this, the fire department might say no go, because you're basically stopping the door from being able to exit. So those are the kinds of things we work through with that committee.
You know, one of the other small things was, do we have the blinds open or closed in the classroom? And so that committee worked with the first responders and the police department to decide what is it we're going to do. And so it's important that we have feedback. Police, we really have a good relationship with the police department. And when we're talking about our drills, the police are here for the drills. They give us feedback. They let us know what they think, and we make some changes based on that. A small change. We did a drill, and we were talking about an intruder coming in. Once the drill was over, the discussion was, well, that teacher down at the end of the hall had to call the office if they saw somebody coming out of the woods. They called the office to say, I see someone coming out of the woods, hopefully never, but with a weapon. They had to do. Now we've changed that, so any teacher in any room in any school can pick up their phone and make an all call, and it saves precious time. So that came out of one of the drills that we had with the police department. So we do have 4 full-time police officers in our 5 schools. We're going to talk tonight about SSOs and see what your thoughts are about that. We do practice these drills. You know, we want them not to open the door, see something, say something. And we do now have every other month meeting with the police department, all the principals, and the chief, and the lieutenant, and the SRO person, and it's great. We have these meetings, we can talk about things that affect us or don't affect us, and some of the things that we go forward with.
So a nice honor that the district received last week was we were ranked the #1 safest school district in the state of Connecticut, according to a poll that was done by niche.com, and this was also featured on Channel 3 News. It's a nice acknowledgement, and it's nice to know that our efforts are seen by others as positive. It's a nice to have, but it doesn't stop us from continuing to reflect on what we're doing, and it doesn't stop us from challenging the work that we're doing to determine if there's other things we need to do to improve that work. So even though it's a nice to have, it doesn't stop that ongoing reflection on the quality of work that we have going on.
So any questions for us? Again, we had a great discussion at Jockey Hollow last week. It was it probably lasted an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour, with parents having questions. They seem to understand. Once we start putting together all the things that we've done for security since 1999, it's a pretty impressive list. But again, we're not going to stop. We're going to try new things like that thing under the door, like changing, the words that we use. We want common language. Any questions?
Jay?
Yeah, John, can you explain the difference between SRO and SSO?
Yes. Can I get into that now?
Sure, let's go. Wait, does anybody have any other questions regarding the safety and security before we get into the discussion of SSOs? All right, then we will go on.
Okay, so we had a discussion with the police department, with the chief of police, about his ability to cover SROs if they go on leave or if they're out, or if we need a new SRO. It takes a long time. The school resource officer is a active policeman or a policewoman, and they're trained in SRO. They have the specific training, and they go into classrooms. They work with students. They can help with whatever kinds of activities that we have in the classroom. I know at the high school they talk about legal things. At the middle school they go in. They meet with our parents. They're very active. They're an active part of the school environment. But the police have a hard time staffing, especially if someone's out. So one of the options that the state of Connecticut and many other states have is this SSO, which stands for the School Security Officer. Now in Newtown, they're called Armed School Security Officers. And these are ex-policemen. They have to have left their job in good standings. They have to be trained by the local police department and be certified by the local police department. And they can become these school security officers with weapons and can go into a school. Now, I think everyone thinks that an SRO is better because they really work with kids more and they're more involved. This is a security officer who's here in a building just for that kind of security, making sure that people that shouldn't be in there aren't coming in, and God forbid if something happens, they are armed. Newtown has in their job description, they have to have been a police officer for at least 15 years, and they have to be certified, and they have to go through a rigorous challenge every year to make sure that they are up to speed on all the training. I'm meeting with the chief tomorrow just to kind of talk about his thoughts. What he has done is he brought it to the police commission and asked them if he could go forward investigating this. And that's really what I'm asking you today. Not to say, yes, let's go forward, that we're going to definitely do it, but can we investigate this? Because again, we only have 4 officers for the 5 schools. Some people are suggesting that we should have 1 for every school. If there's somebody that's out or on leave, are we going to be able to have somebody cover for that? I'm sorry, Jerry, but just one more thing. Why this came up, when this came up is Joe Cobbs had we have security guards, just they don't carry weapons, they're not trained, but they just ask for passes and they're security guards. We had an opening and you had a number of retired police who applied for the job. And as a matter of fact, we have Captain Flick, who was a captain of the Monroe Police Department, as a security guard at Massac High School. And his training, his background, his knowledge has been invaluable in the couple of weeks that he's been here. So when that happened, we started to think, wow, there are people who want to do that. Now, it's about half the cost of an SRO, an SSO.
Is the SSO working in conjunction with the SRO, or are we getting rid of SROs?
I don't believe the police department wants to get rid of SROs.
Okay, thank you.
It is not my plan to get rid of SROs. Now, maybe, we could have 1 SRO and then 2 security officers or whatever, 3 securities and 1 SRO that would float around. I think the SRO brings a different skill set.
I was just wondering, so they're not looking at just getting rid of?
No.
Thank you.
No. And I have a bunch of questions too that I want to ask tomorrow. Right now, it's not in the Board of Ed budget.
Right.
It's in the police department budget. If our SSOs in the Board of Ed budget or in the police department budget? Our SSOs right now, the police supervise the SROs. They're the ones, if we have any issues, they're the ones who evaluate them, they're the ones who talk to them, deploy them, that whole thing. Who is involved in that? Is the SSO part of the police department, or are they part of the school? In Newtown, they're part of the school. Because we got all the information from Newtown. So in Newtown, they are part of the school, they are supervised by the school, they just have to have the updated training by the police department. So there's a lot of questions that we have to ask, but I didn't really want to go forward and ask the questions without your blessing. If it's not something that you think you want us to investigate, then we can end this now. If it's something that you want more information on, then we can go forward as if to get more information.
I would say for some of the schools, an SSO would probably be okay. For the elementary level, it really depends on what the chief is obviously looking at as a deployment. One of my concerns is they need to be supervised by the police department. We do not have the expertise or the time to try to supervise, make sure these people are trained. That needs to be the police department. And my last issue is it needs to be under the town budget, not the Board of Education budget. We don't have the budget for that. Jerry?
I know none of us want to give up school safety for the cash. So yes, of course, go sit and listen. I agree with you. I mean, I think at the high school and I think the middle school, the SRO is important. Not that they're not important at the elementary. See, it's a very hard line you're walking.
But I think right now right now we share some resources.
do.
Maybe an SSO can
Agreed.
move from place to place, and the SROs can also be there so that we can have more coverage. I think we have to just look at it that way.
Agreed.
And I'm really impressed with what's happening with our security force. If we're going to get all ex-policemen in our security force, that's at the high school. It's going to kind of change security at the high school level.
Is there a set standard for SSOs in general? And would we be able to essentially come up with, for instance, we only want to hire ex-police officers?
Yeah, they can only be ex-police. They can be ex-military, ex-police. You can't have someone off the street come in, be SSO, and we can say that. And we can, that's a law anyway, but we can say we want 15 years experience.
Right, that's what I meant, was we could, as a board or as a group, decide what our criteria is for SSOs.
Absolutely. But I have the law, the Connecticut law here. They have to be in order to carry a firearm. They have to be ex-police or ex-military, and they have to have left in good standings. There's a bunch of things that the law says they have to be.
Do you have any definition of ex-military? Like how long they served? Or
I don't think I have the job description here. We can look at it later. I don't think it said. It just said they had to have been left there.
So as long as you serve 4 years.
And you're left in good standings. You can't not be in good standings. Like you can't be dishonorably discharged, or you can't be laid off, or fired from a police job.
And have you mentioned this to the parents? Yeah.
We did talk about it with the parents, and again, their answer is the same as yours. Is that they like that the SROs interact with their children. They like that they go into classrooms. The SSO they see is not doing that, and I don't see that as happening with the SSO either. I mean, of course they're going to interact, but I don't see them going and teaching a lesson, that kind of thing. So I think parents would not be. Maybe this is a gross generalization, but I don't think they'd be happy if we said we're not going to have SROs. I think they see this as a supplement to maybe not being able to hire a full battery of SROs, or if somebody is on leave, we can cover it with that just for the safety until that person comes back. Because right now, if somebody's out, we don't have coverage.
And the security guards that we have, how many, we have those at all of the schools or just here?
No, just here. There's just 4 of them here.
And we own the budget for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They're part of the custodial bargaining unit.
Okay.
And SSO would not be part of that bargaining unit.
Right.
And our security officers are not armed or anything.
Right.
They're basically, they're more handing out, they're in the guard shack up here, handing a slip to leave if you're a student to say that you have to go somewhere, or giving you the security badge to
So
put
we'd
on.
be talking essentially about replacing those folks with the,
No,
or no?
no, not necessarily. I think we would be talking about, pardon me?
We would keep.
They would
those
stay at
in
Massey because we
conjunction
need
with-
them to do that. But the SSO would be if we wanted one SSO, SRO in every building,
Yeah.
we could do it with an SSO. If somebody was on leave or left, we could cover that with an SSO. I
Right,
think
like
there's
right
some-
now we have a split Monroe and Stephanie, so this could possibly be where each of those schools have their own SSO as opposed to an SRO.
And then the SRO could go from school to school then,
Right.
because the security part is covered, and then they could go in and work with the children. And again, I don't think it's a lack of wanting SROs, it's just a lack of finding people to take the job and to be trained to do it.
Now, with SSOs and SROs, what's the training like? So do the SSOs have to go to the shooting range and be actively
Yes.
training?
The
like an
the SRO training, the school resource officer training, is more of, recognizing how to work with kids in a classroom, more interaction kind of stuff, as well as a police officer.
Okay.
SSO is more on the safety. They have to get trained on the range. They have to know, I think, some emergency procedures, medical emergency, like light medical emergency. They have to have that kind of training, CPR, that kind of stuff. But with the SRO, it's a more rigorous training on how to deal with students and how to deal with that kind of behavior.
Yeah, I would just be concerned about training going forward. I mean, with firearms, accuracy is really important, so you
Yes.
really want someone that's staying on top of it and shooting.
Yeah, they have to be trained by the local police department, and just like if you were active policemen. The good part is, like Captain Flick is also a special duty policeman, so he has to keep that training going for that part of Monroe too. So I mean, I think that's what impressed us the most when we put the ad out for just a security guard. We had people who were active police recently retired. Again, police retire early. This gives them an opportunity to make a little extra money and, you know, to be part of our security force.
So like every year, they would have to get renewed by the police department?
Every year, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a 2-day, not I think, it is a 2-day training for an SSO.
And as John said, a key part of it is the firearms piece in particular. It's the same as a police certification.
That's right. Yeah, they were telling us it's 2 days of training, and part of that is the firearm.
Yeah, so I think it's good, I guess, explore it and see,
Okay.
you know, what the chief's, you know, idea is, or what his, you know, his thoughts are on this, and then we can have a full discussion once we have all the information as to whether or not this is something we would want to have in our schools, or is this something that we don't think would be a good fit for us, but at least find out, you know, how the whole program and how his expectation of how all that would work and
Right.
all that type of stuff. Because I would say we would definitely want, if we do want to pursue this, we would definitely want to have certain criteria that we want in the policy, because we would need to have a full policy.
Yeah, the
change
Board of
on
Ed
this.
has to have almost like an MOU, like we have for the SRO, with the police department because of the training, because of all that
Right,
stuff.
that we'd want specific, so see what they say.
Okay, I'll
And
come
then-
back with you on that.
Does anybody have anything else? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor? Motion passes. Good night, everybody.